I don't know about where else I was. I would have been around here a long time, 93 years old, And I worked over there at U.S. Steel for $3.10 a day. So it's a long time before I was wealthy, as you call it.
Well, what was it like for black people in Birmingham before the 1963 demonstrations? Do you remember what
Pretty tough, pretty tough.
so?
There were no conveniences, public convenience available to black people on equal basis. The quite a bit of unemployment. You can understand the segregated the job situations. They had jobs for white and jobs for black and so forth. Those are the conditions that many of the black folks came through, and some of them survived and made a little money.
Did you, when you looked around at the circumstances that existed for black people in this community, did you feel some sort of responsibility because you had been sort of fortunate in making some money? Did you feel an obligation to do something?
Well, yes, it was all of us in the same part. We were self survival. It wasn't so much it happened myself, it happened the other fellow, so we all could survive. That was my interest in the civil rights movement. Uh, it wasn't a selfish movement; it was for all of us. Um, as I say, Arthur Shows did quite a bit of the legal work, but I was fortunate enough of having a little money, and I did the financing most of it. Not directly on it, indirectly. As I say, I provided the funds for the civil rights folks who was agitating it, and provided facilities for those civil rights activists, such as Andy Young and those boys who'd come over here, and with the movement with Martin King.
Okay, I'm backing up just a little bit earlier though, because they were changing the government over. There was a competition between
Oh, proud of them. They were, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you think the election, the outcome of that might change Birmingham for the
Yeah, I
better?
was. I was. I was with David Vann and supported him in his election. He was seemed to have been spearheading that movement. I was very active with that group, and Vincent Townsend, who was with the Birmingham News, who was very active. So I was,
How were you active?
well, I was participating. I was one had a little money, and they kind of accepted me in a way. Uh, I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce, along with Arthur Shows back in those days. And naturally, I had communication with the leaders.
Okay, now you were involved in the Chamber of Commerce. There was already plans to change the city government, bring in Albert Boutwell, get rid of Bull Connor and some of those people. Didn't you think that change was coming? Didn't you think that maybe Martin Luther King's intervention was unnecessary, or how did you feel about that?
Well, we didn't anticipate the need for Martin King at that time. This Martin King thing came, and of course it was an organization that we supported, and I financed it. Well, we they had no place to stay when they started bringing in folks from Atlanta and Montgomery up here, and that's when I put them up at the motel down there. They had no money. I didn't participate actively front end of the organizations, but I financed them. And some of the activities that I didn't approve of in a way, but I was financing the group. For instance, they were taking the kids out of school, marching. And I thought that was unnecessary. In fact, my idea was the kids, many of them didn't know what it was all about to start with. But they were using them and very effectively. And I got criticized from them about from some of Horsey Williams, the boy is very popular in Atlanta now. He was one of the fellows who called me Uncle Tom, a super Uncle Tom. Old Horsey did. But the guys couldn't eat. They had no place to stay and eat other than me. They couldn't do that, but, because I was feeding them and putting them up down there. And that's the only thing I had. I was with the movement. But my idea of approaching it was somewhat different from some of the folks that you might call radicals. I was trying to approach it from, and I did it from very effectively.
If you were supporting Martin King and some of those people and giving them some financial help, letting them use your motel and things like that, surely some of the people in Birmingham must have been upset with you. Did you have calls of
Yeah, yeah. My house was bombed, the motel was bombed, and but I think what I did, helped save the situation from the polarizing the white and the blacks, because I was kind of moderate between the two. The whites wasn't too happy with me either, you know. I say, yeah, I had money and I was supporting these radicals over here, so they was giving me hell. And the black folks, they was giving me hell, said I was Uncle Tom because I was supporting the white. I was trying to keep them the town from, and so when they started bumming, and I told them at the Chamber of Commerce, Sid Smile, who was a very prominent man in this town, who had it very influential, and I just told Serious, but I used to slip up his office in the back. I couldn't let the blacks see me having conference with them. But it was that type of communication that saved the town, because the black was fixing to bum up the town. That is, they were getting dynamites out, and the whites, they were doing the same. And I could see, I'm a property owner. I had selfish interest there. My business going to be burnt up and everything. So I told Miss Smile what was fixing to happen. And they got it over to the white people. That, I think, saved the situation. Uh, I make no compromise. I think I'm proud of what I done, even though I caught the hell on it from both sides. Because today you can see the climate in Birmingham that I think wouldn't have been here at that time. It was after we changed this thing, then the white and the black began to kind of come to the sense, and this community started growing.
Let me ask you about some of the people at that time. Tell me what you remember of Bull Connor.
Bull said that I was his best nigga in town. Old Gaston, my good nigga. That was his compliment to me. And I thought it was embarrassing thing I ever saw, but I couldn't resist it. I used it. It was those kind of situations where the white and the blacks couldn't communicate. We had a white man that announced for some political office here, I remember, and in the newspaper they took a picture of him shaking hands with a black man on the street, and that in itself caused him to lose the election. The thing was so tense at that time, nobody profited from it.
Tell me about Fred Shuttlesworth.
He was a brave young man. He took the blunt. I got him out of jail many a time. He was trying to integrate the school. The night that Martin King was in jail over here, when he wrote the letter about the Birmingham jail, Martin was in jail over here, and Shuttlesworth was had his beat all up, had come down there blood and everything, and and then it was fixing to have a mess in this town. It was at that time I got the author to go there and get Martin out of jail. Well, the group didn't want him to get out of jail, because as long as he was in jail, that would inspire the movement to move. So we got Martin out of jail, and we got Shuttlesworth straightened out, and that saved that situation that night. I believe in the next day, though, is the time that march started. I believe that time they started in the park out there when the bull came down there with the hose pipe there. But Shuttlesworth was a leader. He was the one who led the organization that brought King over here from Atlanta.
What about Wyatt T. Walker? Remember him?
Yeah, well, yeah, well, he was with that organization, one of the leaders in there.
What was Art Haynes like as mayor?
Yeah, he was on one of those radical mayors. I think it's him and his son was a lawyer. Yeah, I think uh, he wasn't. He was back. He wasn't too much more better than Bull Connor back in that age. The thing really started changing when Boutwell got in, and it didn't go too far then, but it did turn a little back to the center from then when David Van got in there. That's really when it started going on the right track.
Tell me about David Van.
He was a good man. He just made a mistake. I had lunch with him yesterday. When they had a police that shot a black girl here, and Vince Townsend and I was in an operation in Birmingham. David Van was trying to do the right thing, and he pointed a committee. It was a decision for him to make. He pointed this committee. And this committee, they came up with a situation that they didn't accept, and that made him very unpopular. That's when Richard Arrington came in, leading the group that he had, and he profited from it. And Richard Arrington today is doing a doggone good job. He's very popular in this community. Yeah.
Tell me about it. Where were you?
Well, that was when a time that the black was just about ready to do some fighting back. Because they had bombs, they had dynamite stuff stored up around. Some of it was around our place there. And I could see with dynamite in the hands of blacks who were very upset at that period. And the Klan who was prepared with those two coming together. And I was afraid then the thing could, well, it was that time that they wanted to get the president to send the officers, what they call them, the
Marshall?
marshals. And Martin King and we had a committee went to see the president. And I was opposed. I was on the chamber. The chamber really didn't want the marshals, and I agreed with them. We didn't want to do the outside. We thought we could do it ourselves. So I prevailed on King and them to not insist on the candidate not to have the marshals in here. And we sat in the office, and the president, I remember so very well, Reverend Ware, who was one of us in the Oval Office, he had to go in the toilet, you know, the Oval Office. It was quite innocent, but when we got through with the president, and the president was pretty upset. He red as fire. He said, "Don't you go out there and tell the press out there that I wouldn't send what they call them, the marshals there. That y'all didn't ask for it." I said, "Yeah, we did." But there, we met over at the Hilton Hotel, and King and them had to prevail on me. I wasn't going over there unless we agreed to not to call for the office, for the marshal. But so we agreed to not call for the officers, and we didn't. And but they sent a committee. I mean, the president sent two a retired Army officer and whoever, you all ought to know who it was. They came down, and from then on, they started getting this thing together. The real issue was getting in the integration in the restaurants and fitting on clothes in the stores and that type of stuff.
Well, there was a lot of discussion and debate about the use of nonviolence to combat the violence. There was a lot of violence in Birmingham, and yet Martin was talking about using nonviolent methods. Did you approve of that?
I mean, myself, I couldn't do it, so I don't get in it. But he succeeded, and I agree every bit of the word. He succeeded with it, and he got results from it. And I'm prepared to give him all the credit and honor for it. But in the L.R. Hall in our building down there, I was sitting in the audience when King up there making a speech, and some young notorious fellow jumped up on the platform and attacked him. And he wouldn't even let us. And I went to call the police, and King stopped me. He don't want to arrest him, see. And them fellas, it's in a black audience, you can imagine. And they would have tore him up. But King wouldn't let him. And then, but the police came anyway, and King wouldn't even press charges against him. Well, that was it. It was it, and standing up on my building looking down on Bull Con and them shooting water in the park right across from my office there in that park. I guess that's the most outstanding thing in my mind right now.
How did you feel when you saw that?
I just couldn't imagine what could happen. I could see my building bum it up and everything. I just couldn't know what was going to happen. It was that plus that bumming of that church down there killing those kids. Those will always stay in my mind. But I can reflect back on it now and see what has happened at the community that we're living in. See the leadership that Richard Arrington has given this town. And I can see the relief that will come to many white people, even white businesses, that are better off today because instead of having two toilets, they have only one toilet now. So they save money. So the whole thing went all right. I can see the transit system where they had to have the black folks on the back of the thing. Now the black folks is running the thing. You know, everybody's happy on it. So I've been to see it all.